me, Divya Upadhyaya, Inika Singh, Mayank Ojha, Abhishek Choudhary and Manish Kumar will be discussing on the topic of Columbus's voyages and how the actual reality of these voyages contradicts the popular perception of these voyages. We will be discussing further in greater detail by analyzing the voyages, first and second voyages, and what we have seen in the videos. Hello, I am Divya and I will be talking about three main points regarding the topic: motives of Columbus, the communication between the tribes, and behavior of Columbus. So, as stated in these videos which I have seen, the motive of Columbus seems to constantly change and contradict itself in different voyages. His motives at first glance may seem to be for the crown and for glory. However, we will find out that the original motive of Columbus in the first voyage, for example, was to search for gold in order to keep his men, which were criminals, starved and motivated for potential riches. And another example is the fourth voyage, where he is now desperate to prove his innocence to God and to the crown because of the allegations leveled against him due to the mismanagement of the colonies. That is why he tries to go for further expeditions. So we see that the motives of Columbus continue to change according to time and space. My second point is about what we again see in the video about the pictures the tribes are painted as. Like, tribes are always shown to be in isolation without any communication with each other, which is a false picture. In reality, as mentioned by Columbus himself in his second voyage, tribes did raid each other, kill each other, and kidnap each other. However, even before in it, Columbus tries to say that they had no contact with each other. So what is this contradiction in what Columbus himself has created in his voyages that we need to resolve? We need to see this in way of what Columbus is trying to communicate to the Western world. He wants to try to paint the picture of tribes which are incapable of communicating with each other. They cannot transport, they don't have any sense of direction, and they are barbaric and a backward civilization. My third point is about the behavior of Columbus. In many of the videos, Columbus is often painted as this charismatic, inspirational sailor who is quite popular among his crew. However, that cannot be more further from the truth. In reality, Columbus was quite ruthless, violent, and he often gave cruel punishments to his sailors who tried to mutiny and rebel against him, which was constant because many sailors wanted to go home. They weren't sure where they were going, what was going to happen, and they often pushed Columbus to go back to Spain. However, Columbus forced them with his whip and kept them in line. And hence we see this contradiction of the behavior of Columbus and his ruthless and cruel personality.
Hello, I am Manish. I will be discussing three major points. And first is the exaggerations of the achievements of Columbus voyages, and the second is the perceptions of Native Americans, and third is the arms and ammunitions. The voyages of Christopher Columbus was a major events in the world history, which had connected the new world with the old world. But the achievements of the voyages of Christopher Columbus was exaggerated by Christopher Columbus himself, and it was also exaggerated by the Western media and the documentaries. So begin with the first, why there is so much exaggeration about the achievements of Christopher Columbus voyages. There could be many reasons. First, it could be to show the Western hegemony or show Western as wise as compared to other race, and to show the navigation skills of Columbus, and to convince the kings and the queens of Spain, so Christopher Columbus could get financial support from them for his further expeditions. And the second point is why Christopher Columbus called these Native Indian Americans as backward, beast, uncivilized. The peoples, those could be easily converted into Christianity. The people, those could be easily cheated. This is because the wrong and the prejudiced perceptions of Columbus, a perception which is formed in a society, a Spanish society or an European society, a society which is male dominated, a hierarchical society and paternal society. For example, Christopher Columbus mentioned that the women in initial Christopher Columbus mentioned that the native women of Americans, they were naked, they were uncivilized. But in the last of first voyage, he mentioned that these Native American Indian women, they 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 had a knowledge of defense and they were independent. The third point is, did the Native Indian Americans had knowledge of arms and ammunition? In the first, Christopher Columbus mentioned that they didn't have any kind of knowledge about arms and ammunition. But further, he said that when the ship of Christopher Columbus was broken by a storm, it was protected by these Native American guards. These were guards; those had arms and ammunition. But initially, he didn't mention about them.
Hi, I am Abhishek and I will be talking about Spaniard settlers' brutalities committed and its consequences on the Caribbean island. From the YouTube documentary Into the New World, it describes that Spaniards begged to remain behind on the island to earn profit from the local gold mines. But in reality, on the night of 24 December 1492, on Christmas Eve, Columbus' main flagship, Santa Maria, was sinking into the water. Columbus was successful in saving lives of his men and items, but when he wanted to go back to Spain, his men could not be fit on the remaining two ships, so he was forced to leave some men behind. He built a fort named La Navidad, and from the items of the Santa Maria, he built a fort on the island of Hispaniola. After receiving gold gifts and enslaving some men from the natives, Columbus went sail for the Spain. Columbus describes in his journal that the men he has left behind have enough arms, ammunition and supply up to 1 year, and the island poses no danger to them so as long they maintain discipline, that they can destroy the whole island with arms ammunition. This describes the mentality of Columbus. Further, after spending some time in the Spain, he took permission from the Queen Isabella for the second voyage. This time he was granted much larger fleet of around 17 ships and around 1200 men. He went back to island of Hispaniola on 27 November 1493. It was dark and night, so Columbus decided to wait for the next day. But during the night, some natives approached his ship and informed that the settlers were well and some died of illness while others fighting each other. On the next day, cousin of the local king informed him that his rival chief has killed all the settlers. So, Columbus and his men suspected that maybe this may be wrong. So, Columbus went to the fortification of La Navidad next day and found the clothing of his men. All the men were dead. He also found the anchor of the ship Santa Maria there, and with the help of interpreter, Columbus was informed that his men were died by rival chief, and he was also told that man had took 3-4 natives women with him. So Columbus realized that the natives themselves killed settlers and not the rival chief. This also Columbus realized that natives were capable of putting up a strong resistance, and natives would think that these white men who were wearing clothes came from sky and were God. But some natives put argument against this, that the God will never indulge in some such type of immoral acts. Further, this encounter changed the interaction between the two civilizations forever. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mayank. I'm continuing with the contradictions between the narrative in the media and the actual textual evidence about the voyages of Columbus. I'll be talking about the belief in some sections of the media that Columbus, inspired by the voyages of Marco Polo and his writings, was actually after a route to Japan. Upon reaching Cuba, Columbus apparently thinks that he has reached China and wants to sail further ahead so that he could reach Japan and obtain the apparent riches there. This, however, is almost certainly untrue, as it is verified in the sources that Columbus was actually in search of a route to the Indies or India. His voyage was sponsored by the monarchs of Spain, Ferdinand and Isabel, in the belief that Columbus would be able to find a route to the Indies or India, and hence upon they would be able to bypass the Arab hegemony of the Asian trade. Another belief in some sections of the media is the fact that Columbus was a highly read, educated navigator and was apparently a master of the Latin and Portuguese languages. This, once again, is almost certainly untrue, as the sources remain silent on this. Add to that the fact that someone so highly read would be capable of the barbarities that Columbus commits upon the natives of America is hard to believe. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Inika, and I will be talking about the video by Michael Novels, why Christopher Columbus was actually great, and contradicting them with the history of the voyages and in the journals. First of all, a little about Michael Novels. He is a politician of the US in the Democratic Party and a political author and commentator very respected in the country. He is known now to say such things that Columbus was actually a great man and that he was on the side of Indians. In my video, now I will be contradicting these things. Firstly, he says that Christopher Columbus was actually the greatest navigator of his age. Now, a navigator is someone whose sole aim for navigation is exploration. But as contradicted earlier in this video by my groupmate Divya, that his aim was not exploration, but getting gold wherever he can, as it is known from the first and the second voyages. And then the next of his aim was actually getting people to convert to Christianity. So therefore, he cannot be called the greatest navigator, and the question has to be put if he can even be called a navigator, since his aim was not exploration. Secondly, Michael Novels in his video also says that Columbus was so kind and great that he actually lamented and was guilty for the sins that were committed by his troops. He references that Columbus was actually guilty, that his troops were selling little Native Indian girls of age 9 and 10. However, in the very in his journal, in Voyages 3 and 4, we have evidence of Columbus himself partaking in this selling of 9 and 10-year-old girls and sexually assaulting them, keeping them as prize, and actually parading them in the US society for the same reasons. Now, this is directly against how Michael Novels calls him as lamenting and guilty of his troops. Thirdly, he calls out the different historians and researchers who call out Columbus on his monstrosity of his acts, as are evidenced by the journals. He says that there is no direct evidence that Columbus committed any monstrosity and was actually responsible for them. However, I would like to quote from the second voyage, a direct quote. Columbus says, as a result, every Spaniard went out among the Indians, robbing and seizing their women wherever he pleased and doing them such injuries. He himself is writing about robbing the Indians, robbing their women, and also about causing them injuries. Now, if this is not an evidence of monstrosity, then I don't know what is. And this directly, and he also says that this directly caused the Indians to retaliate. Lastly, I would like to talk about the final point, in which Novels says that Michael was very much on the side of the Indians. This man, who is supposedly on the side of Indians, has taken them for slaves, has named all of their things and their native islands with different names, changed all of their names, assaulted their women, and killed their men and children. Now, Michael Novels is calling all of these acts as being on the side of Indians. Columbus has taken their religion away from them and everything that they have known for all their lives away from them. This cannot be called as someone being on the side of the native Indians. For the evidence for the same, the entire journal, basically the first, second, and the third and the fourth voyages, all of them acts as evidence.